Am I the asshole for asking my boyfriend to skip his afternoon nap? I'm 26F, he's 30M. We've been dating for 3 years, but just moved in together 6 months ago. I have felt crazy busy since moving in together. I work outside of the house, commute for an hour a day, and I'm going to school part-time to try and get a better job, so my schedule is already packed. But since moving in together, it feels like my time spent doing chores has almost doubled. I talked with my boyfriend about this, hoping that we could come up with a reasonable chore schedule, but he's adamant that he's doing as much as he has the capacity to do. Something else I've noticed since moving in together is that he takes a nap from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. daily. He otherwise sleeps through the night, usually 1 a.m. to 10 a.m., but that afternoon nap is like clockwork. Long story short, I told him that he is getting 14 to 15 hours of sleep every day, and that he can start making more time to help around the house by even shortening that nap. I don't even think that amount of sleep is healthy, but he insists it's a necessary part of his day, and that I'm crossing a boundary by suggested that he not nap. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. He is getting nearly double the recommended amount of sleep needed by the average adult on a daily basis. If he literally cannot function without that much sleep, he's asleep more hours than he's awake. It's time he visited a sleep clinic. Does he even have a job that works around that sleeping schedule? He is TA for being selfish with his time and not taking equal share of the household chores. This, and stop doing so many chores. They will add up, and he will have to take notice. Painful for you, but worth it. How's he going to take notice if he's never awake? Not the asshole. How is this man working full-time if he spends this much of the day asleep? This is not normal. He should see a doctor. If he honestly does require 15 hours of sleep a day, you're going to assume the role of his caretaker if you stay with him. Sleeping that much simply does not allow him the time to handle a fair share of the household responsibilities and have a career. I think YWBTA to yourself if you don't seriously consider whether you want to sign up to be this man's caretaker before continuing this relationship. Your BF doesn't understand what a boundary is. Not the asshole. Sleeping 4 to 8 is not napping, and I suggest you move back out if he's unwilling to share why a grown-ass man is sleeping so much and unwilling to make an effort to allocate chores equally. Did you not notice his sleeping habits before moving in? Who kept his place habitable before you moved in? Did he just stop because you're there? If so, he's just looking for a housekeeper with benefits. What shift does he work? And is his work affected if he doesn't sleep so much? These are questions I think you would not be crossing boundaries for weighing the answers. And if after a discussion with him you learn there is no medically documented reason, or he has fundamentally different household standards, you know what to do. Am I the asshole for breaking a promise and not taking a kid home every day? First, TA account, because my main has a lot of identifying things about me if someone were to snoop through it. No, all names are fake. My daughter, Daisy 12, made friends with D, 13, 2 years ago. Thick as thieves. D's mom, B, is a single mom and struggles. When the girls started middle school, we learned the bus wasn't available to them. Walking or driving them to school is required. The OG plan was for B to drive the girls to school in the morning, and I would pick them up. However, that plan fell through at the start of the year, so I did both pick up and drop off for several months. Eventually, B started driving D to school in the morning again, but never bothered to honor our OG deal, so I still took Daisy in the morning and did pick up after school for both. B is also very demanding and needy. It has gotten to the point, anytime my phone dings from a FB message, my SO will ask, what does she want now? It's become a weekly thing, with times being a daily thing. I've helped where I can, but a lot of her asks are wild. I need money for food. Do you know anything about X, Y, or Z? I've never given her money, but have helped with giving her an old phone, with the promise it'd be returned when she got a new one. She returned it, alright, completely shattered. Last bit of context that is important. I am currently 5 months pregnant, suffered a knee injury when my dog decided to hide behind me by trying to go through me. Also, my kid walking home alone from school is a big NO because she would have to cross 2 major roads that have like 10 lanes each. 3 lanes each side, 2 left turn lanes, 2 right turn lanes. And people in my city seem to think red lights are optional. The issue. My car decided to just stop going vroom on my way home from picking up my son. Luckily, we were close enough to the house he was able to push it to our driveway, but left me unable to leave again to pick up the girls. I called B, begging her to pick up the girls just once as a favor, but she replied, "No, I can't. Figure it out." Tried calling my SO, but he was either in meetings or at PT. So I walked. Took me over 40 minutes to get there with my knee. By the time I got there, So had gotten off work, so he offered to pick us up at the park next to the school. It was a semi-warm day, so it wasn't a huge issue. But Daisy told me that B came to pick up D, so obviously she could get there no issues. I was pissed, so I messaged her and told her, from now on we should just pick up our own kid. You couldn't do me one favor in my time of need after I have helped you out with so much. B blew up on me, saying I was breaking a promise, even though I never promised shit. It was just a deal. Daisy and D aren't really friends much these days. Daisy says the only time they talk is when they are in my car and at school. D acts like Daisy doesn't even exist. So am I the asshole? I feel bad because she struggles, but I feel used at this point. Not the asshole, dude, and just block her. She is just using you at this point, and I can't see how you're benefiting from this relationship at all. I hope you get well soon. Thanks. Not as swollen anymore, but still hurts like a bitch. Not the asshole. If she wants to call it a promise, then she already broke it long ago. She's asked you for countless favors and gotten them, despite the ire it's causing you in your relationship. Then this one time you ask her for something and it's too much trouble for her. To pick up a child. Standing right next to her. Child. Unbelievable. Ditch her ass and don't look back. She is a complete user. I even said she didn't have to drive her all the way home. My SO would have picked her up on his way home from her house, because I thought timing might have been an issue if she needed to be home for something. I just didn't want my kid sitting around the school for hours if I wasn't able to make the walk. I think I only made it out of sheer determination. Am I the asshole for not getting my sister-in-law new clothes because my infant pooped on her? My wife and I have recently had our second child, and it was a boy. It's been a few months after that, and my brother arrived to meet us now, along with his wife. It's the first time that they saw him, as they were not present when he was born. They prefer to live in extravaganza, and are the kind of people who like to boast about everything they've got, humble brag, etc. Things were basically going well until my sister-in-law lifted the baby, and he unfortunately defecated himself, aside from urinating. She almost let out a yell and backed off, and my wife took the child from her hands. We apologized, but they got mad and were like how disgusting it was, and that she wasn't expecting it. She washed it off, but then she told me that I have to pay her for what my infant did. I laughed and said, "What did you expect when you held a child like that? I'm not giving you money." Both of them got mad and said, I am the parent and should be responsible for what he's been doing, and we got into an argument. In the end, I just asked them to get out of my house, and they did so, but they were talking about how I was really inconsiderate, a miser, etc. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. If babies came with a no-poop guarantee, parenting would be a whole other ballgame. Her expecting reimbursement for a common infant accident is like asking for a refund after getting wet at a water park. Next time, maybe she'll consider a change of attire before baby cuddle time, or at the very least, some realistic expectations about the messy realities of infants. Also, you can wash clothes. I'm sure since they are so rich, they can afford to have it dry cleaned. OP would be a little more, not the asshole, if they offered to cover the dry cleaning, but ultimately getting poop pee puke on you is a risk you take when holding a baby. I'm just curious how it got on her. Like, was the baby naked or in a too small diaper? My son had blowouts, sure, but unless he was pressed against someone, it stayed in his clothes. So I'm confused how he was dressed or how she was holding him. My little dude never had blowouts at all. But one of my best friends, her kids had crazy horrible ones. It would go all up their backs, no matter how well the diaper fit. Diapers can only handle so much, I guess. Am I the asshole for leaving a dinner with my girlfriend's family because they kept speaking in a language I didn't understand? I am from Galicia, a region in Spain that speaks a language that is very similar to Portuguese, and my girlfriend is from Barcelona, which is in Catalonia. She speaks Catalan. We live in Madrid and study here in university. Everyone in Spain speaks Spanish, except for foreigners, pretty much on a native level from education, media, and exposure. There is no such thing as a Spaniard who only speaks Basque, Catalan, or whatever, unless they're 90+ years old from some small village. And even then, they would still know the basics of Castilian Spanish. I know I'm going to get some comments about this. Okay, so here's the conflict. People from Catalonia are often very nationalistic and will sometimes refuse to speak Castilian. I was in Valencia, and some bitch said, speak Valencian, a dialect of Catalan, when I asked her for directions in Castilian Spanish. My girlfriend invited me over to her parents' house in Barcelona. They talked amongst themselves for a bit in Catalan. I understood, like, maybe half or 2/3 of it. They greet me in Catalan, and I say in Castilian. I don't speak Catalan, I'm from Galicia. They say something in Catalan to each other, which I think was negative. We eat dinner, her sisters and their husbands are there and are discussing things in Castilian, and they would often say things to each other in Catalan, which I thought was rude, but I let it go. They kept switching to Catalan during our conversation, and I politely reminded them like 5 times I don't speak Catalan. They would go back to Castilian, but then switch back to Catalan. I go outside to take a breath of fresh air. Girlfriend joins me, and I ask her what the fuck is her family's problem. Why do they keep excluding me from the conversation? And she says they hate speaking Castilian. I told her that's bullshit. I heard her dad speaking Castilian to someone in Peru during his Zoom meeting. He took a 30-minute Zoom call while I was there, and the mom was preparing food. And not once did he switch to Catalan. We join back, and they start asking me my opinion about things. I respond, I ask them questions, and they just respond back in Catalan, and respond to each other's responses to that in Catalan. And I just had enough and said, I'm leaving now. The food was good, but I just can't stand the rudeness. I told you so many times I do not speak Catalan. I don't feel welcome, so I'm going goodbye. And the father says, how fucking rude. We prepared such a good meal for you, and you are leaving it unfinished. We spent hours on this. They made an entire goose and like 5 side dishes. I said, I fucking told you I don't speak Catalan. Why should I be here when you can't even respect me enough to speak in a common language? I never spoke to you in Galician, Portuguese, English, or Romanian. Fuck you assholes. I grabbed my stuff and left. 15 missed calls from GF last night. Stayed at friend's parents' home nearby. Haven't talked in a day. I decay what to do now. They start asking me my opinion about things. I respond. I ask them questions, and they just respond back in Catalan and respond to each other's responses to that in Catalan. This is just flat out rude. Deliberately so. Out of some sort of parochial pride, they switch in the middle of a conversation with you to the local language they know you don't speak, rather than speaking the common tongue they know everyone present can speak and understand. It would be one thing if it were limited to asides to each other, but to switch right in the middle of talking with you in order to cut you out is just them being needlessly aggressive in their parochial BS. It is rude. You aren't speaking your native local language, but the common one in order to communicate. But rather than meeting you halfway and doing the same, they would rather play games than put that shit aside for a day so they can get to know you. You don't get to give someone the finger repeatedly, then get all offended when they aren't willing to put up with it anymore. Not the asshole. Not to mention, the dad has proven that this is exceptionally deliberate. He didn't do it when it came to his work, but he is doing it to his daughter's boyfriend, someone he probably didn't like to begin with. Well, if their goal was to break them up, I think they succeeded. Not the asshole. If you can all speak a common language, but they refuse to. I'm Australian and can only speak English. My husband is Belgian and can speak Flemish, has a good understanding of Dutch and German also. His Belgian family came to Australia to stay a few weeks, and while English wasn't their comfort zone, that's what they spoke, so my family and I were included. There were many conversations in Flemish when drinking, but they switched back to English when they realized I was just smiling and couldn't follow along. My mother-in-law Skypes each Sunday. We start off together with a quick catch-up in English, then I leave my husband and her to chat in Flemish together. In my experience, if you are deliberately leaving someone out, yes, it's incredibly rude. If there's a common language, though not fluent, that shows inclusivity, not the asshole, matey, and I'm sorry they couldn't see it. Not the asshole, but your girlfriend certainly is. It sounds like she didn't stand up for you, even after you reminded her family politely, multiple times that you don't speak that language, and you even spoke to her about this, and she still did nothing. She put you in a very awkward and uncomfortable position. She absolutely could have stood up for you and told her family to knock it off. On a separate note, your outburst was unbecoming of you. Just because they were rude didn't mean you had to be even ruder. Making a scene and stomping off like that wasn't the best option, and 2 wrongs don't make a right. You should have taken the high road, or at least calmly mentioned in leaving that you were frustrated by the fact that they purposely kept speaking to you in a language that you don't speak. Well, that's another episode of Am I the Asshole in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.